Today's video, we're going to talk about Google Display Network keyword targeting and the ways to do it for maximum results. This prints money once you understand the power of unlocking this method for your company, assuming it applies to your company and niche. It will apply to most. If you understand the rest of how to do display advertising, that is making a good ad, making a good offer. I'll talk a little bit about that on today's video as well. The main thing I wanted to talk about was how to actually target your display ads, because this is the number one thing that people get wrong when they're trying to do display ads. And they'll show up on websites that are just junk websites with junk traffic on them. They'll get a bunch of clicks on their ads, and then therefore, as a result of that, they're not going to make any money. This is how you get around all that junk traffic. So your ad shows up in front of real people and people that are in market for your product and actively researching it, where all the best return is in your market if you're going to run any kind of banner ads on the Google Display Network. Okay, so I'll go into detail what this method is, and I'll also go through a case study where we actually use this method so you can see the difference physically between using targeting the usual way that people think of, that is targeting people by being in market for a certain product or service, or targeting by keyword. The magic actually comes in, as you'll see here in this video, is when you combine both of those and you're targeting people that are in market for a product and actively researching it on a particular web page, blog, or whatnot. Okay, so I'll go into that in a second here, but before I do, if you do not know who I am yet, I am Corey Zyman, owner of Guaranteed PPC, an online advertising agency that specializes in guaranteeing results for their clients. That is, we do not charge our clients management fees until we get them a certain minimum lift in the profitability up front, basically in excess of what our management fees actually are. So with that said, getting into the content here. Keyword targeting with Google Display Network campaigns itself isn't ideal, as Google's keyword ad matching algorithm is very terrible. You can see this by going to any, random blog or news site that have banner ads running on them that you can tell that are Google ads, because you'll be able to tell by looking at the corner of the ad. And if you're not sure about that, just let me know in the comment section. I'll give you a specific example of how to tell. But the main thing you'll notice is the banner ad usually has nothing to do with the topic of whatever's on that actual web page, which it should. We're in 2025 now, at least at the time of making this video, and still the relevancy of ads anymore on the Google Display Network on these websites is absolutely horrendous. You'll see an ad, there'll be an article about oil exploration, and then there'll be an ad for, oiling up your feet or whatever. And this is because the algorithm's so shitty at determining what the actual intent or point or topic of a page is. And to go along with it, for that matter, advertisers, that is, companies hire a marketing firm to help them. Those marketing firms, 9 out of 10 times at least, are boneheads that don't know anything about how to target anything. And they're just hoping to get paid, and you don't realize that it's not working because you aren't tracking things well enough so they can keep getting paid. And if you won't, they'll take your money and go find a different client. And so you're not actually getting anything that actually works through them. They don't understand keyword targeting doesn't really work because of Google's matching algorithm and understanding what pages mean or what the topic on pages actually are. You're not going to get any results with regular keyword targeting at the end of the day, because both the operator of the account doesn't know what they're doing and Google itself doesn't know how to match up somebody who's actually in market for, let's say, oil exploration itself on pages that are actually about oil exploration and how to actually do it the correct way, or investing in oil mining rights and stuff like that. So with that said, okay, keyword targeting is still great though when used particularly with other targeting methods, particularly custom intent audiences. Okay, so custom intent audiences, if you don't know what these are, this is actually where you could Google this for the setup of a custom intent audience. It's easy. The idea behind it is you're going to tell Google, there's two ways to do this technically, what searches that people have made on Google search recently that you want to create and form into an audience. So if you sell mining rights, if you will, to people that want to invest in mining rights, let's say, just as a random example, put in your custom intent audience when you set up anybody who's looking for how to invest in mining rights, best ways to invest in mining rights, so on and so forth, so that on Google Display Network, if you're running Google Display campaigns, you can actually show up for people that recently were interested in this exact information with your ad, presumably that says how to invest in oil mining rights. So you can match up what they were initially researching and interested in as far as information with the offer of information on your ad. Or if you're selling an item, it could certainly be, somebody's searching for buy 4 horsepower pottery wheel on Google, and that's your custom intent audience, and it's revolved around that. And then you have an ad that offers a 4 horsepower pottery wheel. With that said, in-market audiences are great, and we use them a lot on YouTube. We use them with demand gen campaigns a lot by themselves, that is, and can be profitable by themselves on those 2 platforms, on those 2 websites, because Google does a great job of policing all the bot clicks on their platforms, on YouTube, on Gmail. You can still really make a campaign unprofitable if you don't know what you're doing advertising on at least YouTube specifically, because there's a lot of junk channels on YouTube that are made to just make money off of advertising. There's no real users there. They have fake users. And that's a whole different thing. But when you're talking about advertising on the Google Display Network specifically, there's as many fake websites that have no real traffic on them that are just trying to make money off of ad clicks, rake money out of Google AdSense, than there are real websites and real traffic, if you will. And because nobody wants to advertise on these junk sites, the cost per click is less. And if you don't know how to put some good guardrails around your campaign, you're going to have 90% of your budget plus going to have your ad show up on these fake websites, what they call made for AdSense websites that don't have any real users on them. So just because somebody has recently said and typed into Google that they were interested in buying a 4 horsepower pottery wheel, you're not going to make money on the Google Display Network with that main requirement there for your targeting, because a lot of those people, yes, there's mainly bots on these junk websites, but once in a while people will click something and end up on these made for AdSense sites, and it was an accidental click. So like what they'll do is they'll have like a clickbait, basically. They'll say, this energy device is changing the world. And then somebody will click that, and then it'll go to this website. And the idea with the website is nothing that, there might be something about that there, but there's a whole bunch of ads on the site. And they're just hoping you'll click one of the other ads. So it's not like a legitimate user, if you will, that actually wants to stay on this website. They're like immediately going to click out because what is there is not exactly that quality. And then those clicks are basically not worth anything as a result of this. Not to say it would be worthless in all situations, but most. And you just assume it's worthless in your case. So in order to make sure your display campaigns are profitable itself, you got to get on real websites. Well, how do you do this? You can do this via placement targeting. So you could say, hey, I want people that were in market for my items. They've searched for 4 horsepower pottery wheel on Google recently via your custom intent audience that you set up, and have the requirement that they're on this list of 500 websites. And if they're not on this list of 500 websites, even though they're in market for my product, they searched for it recently, I don't want my ad to show, so to say. And the reason this is possible is Google Display Network and display campaigns work with an and function, not a or function like is the default with YouTube and demand generation campaigns. So with YouTube, if you target keywords and you target a custom intent audience, Google is just going to have your ad show up for either or. It's going to show up on videos about those keywords or people that have recently searched for the things that you put in your custom intent audience. The same thing happens, when you're doing demand gen campaigns, if you put 3 different targeting options in your campaign, it's going to target all 3. It must be on this and this and this. Therefore, be on all of them, or the ad is not eligible to show. With display campaigns, that's the only campaign type that you can utilize the and function, where somebody must be this, and they must be this, and they must be this, or the ad's not going to show. Technically, with combined segments, you could create a combined segments with YouTube campaigns where they have to be 5 things in a row. Otherwise, your ad won't show. But specifically as it comes to contextual targeting, that is making sure your ads are showing up on a website or web page in specific and have these other traits, you can only specifically do that with Google Display Network campaigns, if you will. It'd be nice on YouTube if you could say, hey, they're in market, they searched for my keywords on Google before, and they're on a video about this particular topic because it would convert well. They don't let you do it. So with that said, in-market audiences with keyword targeting via the Google Display Network gets you on relevant web pages for in-market users that converts higher than pretty much everything else you're going to do because it weeds out all the bot traffic extremely well. You could also tweak this plan and have it target a whole website of a whole, we've sold mattresses before and there's mattress review sites. We want to target every ad placement on that website and then combine that with the in-market audience that we created through a custom intent audience, where anybody who searched for buy mattresses for sale, knowing that they're in market for a mattress and they are on this site, we want to advertise on this site. That's a great combination to have that, if you will, and target the whole website. Or if you want to target a web page that's about mattress reviews, because usually there's no sites completely about mattress reviews, then you would use keyword targeting in combination with your custom intent audience so that you get on web pages about that particular topic and with them being in market for your product at the same time, and have to be doing both or be in both categories in order for the ad to show. You may be wondering why, though, if you're saying earlier that the keyword matching algorithm where Google determines what a web page is about is really poor, why are you saying to do it now here with or in combination with the custom intent audiences and in-market audiences that you can create through them? Why are you saying to do this then? The answer to that is keyword targeting by itself is, Google does a poor job of knowing what a web page is about. And if all you do is keyword targeting, you're not going to probably make money 99% of the time. However, when you combine it with the in-market audiences you create through your custom intent audience, it actually weeds out the statistical likelihood that somebody has recently searched for pottery wheels for sale and is on a web page Google thinks is about pottery wheels itself. Ultimately, it basically creates like a fail-safe, if you will, for Google's system that doesn't know really with that much certainty if a web page is about a particular topic. But when you say that they have had to search for a pottery wheel for sale and the web page is supposed to be about pottery wheels, for the most part, what you're ultimately doing is getting it to where your ads only show up on relevant web pages that they were actually supposed to show up on if Google's system keyword to web page matching algorithm was working like it's supposed to, so to say. We used to use keyword targeting all the time with placement targeting so that you could target a specific web page on a certain website. Like, for instance, one time, and I know I'm getting a bit off track here, but just to give you some other usage and case studies here, we would have a competitor go out of business, and there would be a news article on the main news publication website that talked about this competitor going out of business because of some scandalous thing that happened. And we wanted to run our banner ads on this article on this particular website, this news website, and we would target that website domain as a whole as a placement, and then we would have keywords related to that competitor layered on top in terms of the keyword targeting, so that effectively our banner ad would only be able to show up on that particular web page of that particular website because there's no other pages on that website about that particular competitor. And it worked beautifully. So instead of advertising across the whole website like you would think you might have to do, we could advertise on just that web page by itself. And for $50, we're going to market to every single person who reads this article that ranks highly on Google about this scandal that happened. And then as a result of that, we have a message. We can redirect all those people to our site saying, XYZ is out of business now. Everybody's switching to XYZ, and had a bunch of new clients from that. That's a beautiful, beautiful strategy we had. So you could combine placement targeting with keyword targeting, or you can do like what we're talking about here, pair custom intent audiences / in-market audiences with keyword targeting and get people that are in market but on web pages that are about the topic at hand. And for that matter, if there's a third option where you could target certain domains and certain keywords and custom intent audiences so that somebody would have to be on a certain website and only on a web page about your topic at hand that your product or service revolves around, and have to have searched for it a in-market or buying search on Google recently. All three of those things. The only issue with that is it's going to be, it's going to cut your impressions down even further unless you're in a fairly big niche, your impressions aren't going to be very much, so to say. But that would be the way to get the most efficiency from your campaign right up front, because if it's on a quality domain as well, the chances are that you're going to have bot clicks is much lower than, it's very, very low, we'll just say. I will tell you though, that big websites have a lot of bot traffic as well. Like for instance, we ran an experiment with Forbes.com, and they for sure have bots clicking their own ads to try to survive being a legacy media and being phased out in favor of like online social platforms where all the attention's going and so forth. And so what you really want, as I've talked about on other videos on this channel, when you're talking about Google Display Network ads, and you should watch my other videos about Google Display Network if you're serious about it. The main thing is, because there's other things you need to know about how to exclude mobile apps in a lot of cases and so on and so forth. I've talked about how not the biggest websites out there are the best to advertise on, and not the smallest. What you want is, the best is websites that have regular, recurring visitors to the site. Niche forums, blogs that get a lot of regular visitors to them that keep coming back and back and back. Why? Because those websites have the highest percentage of real traffic to target. And for that matter, these smaller websites know the value of their traffic so much, they're not going to run ads through Google AdSense anymore, making it possible to target that website through Google Display Network and Google Ads. They're going to sell the banner ad spots directly so they can get more out of it. And they do that because people through Google Display Network know the traffic shit, so they're only willing to pay a little bit per click. Whereas if you actually have a quality thing and you're not playing all these games as far as bots clicking on your own ads, you can't get the full value out of it unless you go direct to your users. And for that matter, on those niche websites, people know how much the traffic's worth, so they're able to sell those placements on their websites directly to end consumers. So anyway, with that said, if you've made a list of all the domains, all the blogs, all the forums, and so on and so forth in your niche itself, and then you combine that with keyword targeting, where you're only targeting keywords or pages on those websites about, let's say it's a woodworking forum that you're targeting, and you wanted to just target the pages about using CNC machines for woodworking, if you will. Then you could do that, and then on top of that, if you had in-market audiences going, so the person had to have searched for CNCs for sale recently, you would have a highly qualified in-market prospect who's on a website that doesn't have a lot of bot clicks because it's a legitimate forum that has a lot of recurring traffic going to it, and it's only showing up on pages about my product topic in question specifically, or category of product. That in and itself, that 3 different targeting options combined would be the holy grail if you can do it and you're in a big enough niche where you can do it, to where at the end of the day, you're going to get more than 10 impressions a week, because then you're not going to get anywhere either. So with all that said, I have a case study here that I want to go through. And we had a mole removal product that we sold. I've talked about this company several times in our videos recently about how we ran a display campaign and basically weren't able to make it successful, really, bot clicks that you get on Google Display Network, until we targeted more than people that are just in market for a mole removal product or searching for a mole removal dermatologist and the like. We actually had to go further and add the keyword targeting to make the campaign viable ROI-wise. Before I get into that though, like I said earlier, just a minute ago on this video, if you're serious about making Google Display campaigns work, you need to go ahead and watch my other videos on the topic. And for that matter, I talk about running display ads semi-often on this channel because we use them for a lot of clients, as well as YouTube ads. Almost nobody's talking about how to do it correctly and to the level that I'm talking about here. They'll say, oh, run a display campaign, click this, this, and this, and you're done. And if it were only that easy, we would all be freaking rich. So if you really want to make it work, you should see my other videos on the topic, and you can search for Display Network on my channel homepage in the search bar to find mostly what you need there. But with that, I come out with new stuff all the time. And if you first of all, if you haven't made any money from what I talk about here, go ahead and try stuff and you'll see how well this stuff I'm talking about works. But furthermore, if you made money, you should keep abreast of all the new changes that come out because stuff changes all the time. Therefore, you should subscribe to this channel so you stay abreast of those changes. And for that matter, I've got a great secondary resource on my site. If you go to my site at guaranteedppc.com/blog, you can find my blog there with the actual strategies we're using at our firm to guarantee clients results, with the step-by-step instructions to use them, with the screenshots that show you and take you through it. everything that you would need. So if you like the channel, you should definitely check that blog out as well. And for that matter, if you have any questions about what I'm covering here today, just a display campaign setup, you want to know for your exact product or service type what you should do, you can always leave me a comment below. I get back to every single person who leaves me a question or comment on this channel, usually within 24 hours time. You can see proof of that by every single comment that's left. I always get back with a response, unlike other creators that are above responding for the most part, or in an intelligent way. So in terms of the case study going into this particular mole removal product, like I mentioned before, we actually created a custom intent audience, not only for people that are looking for a mole removal product, but also the competitors' products, but also, which I think is very clever at least, you let me know what you think, it's targeting people that are looking for dermatologists. If you're going to a dermatologist, mole removal is one of the main services that they offer. That's frequent. That's a frequent one that comes up. At least 1% of their services is just that. So we're going to target them as well because we know it's likely that they're going to want to buy our product instead of going to the dermatologist, or could. And so we targeted all them. And even with the best ad and the best landing page, frankly, the landing page worked great for our search campaigns and our Facebook campaigns and pretty much everything else. But on Google Display specifically, given how tricky it is, and usually I only do Google Display Network campaigns last after I've done YouTube, after I've done demand gen, after I've done search, because of all this, the bot click that's out there. We got a $186 cost per action targeting those audiences, which, to give you an idea of what was profitable, we're looking at acquisition cost of about $40 to be the cutoff for, where it's not viable for us anymore. It's not profitable. There's no ROI there. Now, we also did keyword targeting to try to fix this and try to target any web page about mole removal in general, about how to do it, what's available, da-da-da-da-da. And unfortunately, when we did that test, we found out the results that we got actually was worse. Namely because, and this goes along with what I was saying before, the Google really does not understand what web pages are about very well. Ad was showing up on a lot of irrelevant web pages, potentially pages where if the word mole was on it somewhere, were showing up there, which is not what you want, obviously. You want a page about actual legitimate mole removal options. So our cost per acquisition went up to $412 there, which is way, way, way higher than what we needed, obviously. But we did not give up there. And by the way, this was after a full 90 days of breaking in the campaign. So with display campaigns, no matter how good it's set up, it's probably going to take a while to work. The longer you run it, like with any of the other campaigns in Google Ads, the better it will work. Same thing, applies to any other Facebook ads, Bing ads. The longer you run it, the better it will work. With the conversion tracking data, the algorithm will get smarter and smarter about running your ads. 90 days is like the minimum it's going to take with a display campaign to do any halfway decent results, or have even a halfway decent chance of hitting the baseline profitability you need with your ads. Now, the combined audience that we set up, where we said to Google, hey, we need somebody who's in market for the product. They've searched on Google for a product, mole removal product, or for a dermatologist or a competitor product. They're on a web page about how to remove moles and the like. They were looking for mole removal products, that kind of thing. Our acquisition cost went from at best $186, what we had earlier with the in-market targeting by itself, to $72. So we're looking at less than half of the acquisition cost, combining the keyword targeting with the setup of the custom intent audience campaigns we set up earlier. And with that said, just some general tips, and as we learned as we went along since I ran this particular experiment here, the custom intent audiences that you make, if you're selling a product like a mole removal product, your custom intent audiences, you should try to find people that are researching just as much, at least for any kind of health product or similar, versus people that are just buying. If you are trying to sell a CNC machine, like I mentioned before, which is a machine that cuts out, parts from a piece of wood or what have you, or metal, you would want to target and have a custom intent audience set up just for informational inquiries. That is, how to buy a CNC, and then furthermore, to try to see if you can get it to work, how to cut out parts from a metal sheet and see if you can get that to work. And maybe that will work, maybe it won't. But because this method with the keyword targeting in combination with the in-market audiences works so well, I would recommend going and doing custom intent audiences that are not even just related to people buying your product, but people looking for information, about your types of products and information about how to fix the problem that your product fixes, because you're going to probably get on a page about your product topic anyway. And anytime somebody's actively researching, to fix a problem, and that you can get your ad on there and confirm because they're also on your custom intent audience list, you're going to make a decent amount of return on those ad placements. We've gotten returns over 1,000% ROI on our returns, whereas search ads only was getting 300% return, targeting web pages that are about how to fix a particular problem, because it's so targeted and the cost per click is so cheap. So this is not the first time that we were able to do this. We've done this quite a few times actually. And generally speaking, you should try to target web pages that are about people doing research on how to use a product or service like yours, because it'll typically be profitable. The question is, what do you need to do to make sure you're getting on those pages? One method that you have is to literally make a list of every web page like that on the internet and just target those placements individually. You can do that. If you can't do that because there's too many, well, then the second best option is to target in-market audiences with your keyword targeting in combination. That is what we had to do with this mole removal company, whereas we had a paint that goes on equipment, like a coating, and we sold that particular product, and we didn't need to use the custom intent audience layer on our targeting. We could just find all the web pages about this particular topic, target them individually, and just slam it. Get as many impressions as we can on these particular web pages. So it may not be viable for you to make a list of pages. That would be the most efficient way to go about doing it. And for that matter, if it's less than 10,000 pages, I would still rather make a list of pages manually, because you don't have to worry about showing up in the wrong places. You know exactly where your ad's showing up, and it's all personally vetted by yourself. You can hire a data entry person to do this. The way that I do it, by the way, is I go ahead and I Google all the keywords that we specifically want to target from our custom intent audience. So for the equipment coating company, we would target, how to apply equipment coating, so on and so forth. And then we had a custom intent audience targeting those terms. Yes, for a separate YouTube campaign that we ran, for demand gen campaign, a demand gen campaign that we ran for Google Display Network. It was already effective just collecting all the lists of the blogs that have banner ads running on them already by Googling the term, clicking through, see what ranks. Then if the page looks like it's on topic like it's supposed to, and there's banner ads on those sites, on the web page there, we'll put it into the list to target with our display campaign. For that matter, once you've done that, you do the same thing on YouTube, typically. Find every single video about how to apply equipment coating and target them all as well. And if it's not profitable enough, then you add, some different, you weed out basically the placements that don't work, because you can't add keyword targeting as a requirement in addition to the actual placements and have that work itself. As I mentioned before, this is something you can only do with your display campaign. At the particular time that we did it for the equipment coating company itself, there wasn't that many pages or that many videos on YouTube, whereas nowadays we could have did that more. So YouTube is going to be more powerful to collect a list of pages, a list of videos about a particular topic to target those URLs than it will be to find all the blogs about a topic, because blogs are kind of going away slowly but surely. So anyway, if you're not sure about what you should do exactly in your situation, you should reach out to me at guaranteedppc.com and we can have a conversation about potentially working together. And I can let you know the couple dozen things that you could also do to make your ads more profitable if you're stuck with where you're at right now in terms of revenue and profit. Along with that, we also have a couple other services, one of which is coaching. I've been coaching a lot of agencies now recently, as well as different companies, on how to uncork their revenue and profit results coming from their ads. I go through everything with the client in terms of their website, the pricing strategy, their packaging, everything. Find out what they really need to do, because a lot of times, a lot of you guys, your issue is not your ads. It's your website. It's something else what you're doing. And if you just fix that thing, then your ads would just start taking off like a rocket. And I'm very good at spotting these issues, and I can do it in a relatively short period of time, like a 30-minute call. So if you're interested in that, you can set up a coaching call with me. I also have, in addition to coaching, templates for sale. If we've already worked in your niche market already, like the mole removal company, you wanted to sell that product in a different country that our client's not in, you could sell it there. Using the templates, it's all figured out for you. And of course, we could tell you the results you're going to get with it up front. So basically you wouldn't have to do anything to really figure out how to run a profitable business for yourself once you've got the product together and so forth. If you're interested in those templates, you can also reach out to me at guaranteedppc.com about it. We have over 100 different niche markets where we've got templates already because we've been in business for over 10 years now to get and rack up all those templates. So as long as you're in a different city or country than our client, it's all fair game to use it. And then therefore don't have to spend all the money, time, and effort that we expended to find out the best funnel and ads and all that work for your market, including landing pages. With all that said, that's the method I wanted to share with you here today. The keyword plus custom intent audience method that works extremely well to finally get display campaigns to work when they typically won't work with any other way in many markets, if not most markets. So with that said, I'm going to wrap it up with that. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.
Remember when I said Google Display Network was important during this video? Well, this video here tells you how to do it.